It is 12 noon, and I am glad that you have joined us for our midday devotional. I am in the process, I want to share with you a slide presentation today. Uh, Bear with me as I get it up on the screen. We're still dealing with this global pandemic, and it is sweeping the country. But as we have been promised over and over again, and finally, I think we can uh, begin to at least see that the promises of help being on the way is really a reality. And that may be time for us to really become thankful and to be appreciative to God for His grace and His long suffering toward us, that He has made it possible for us to truthfully become more comfortable with knowing that He has shown us that He's always faithful and that He has never, ever, I mean, never failed to bless us uh, when things get beyond our capacity to handle it. And I think we're in the in this pandemic. I think we would all readily agree that we are at a state in this pandemic to where it actually has become or was about to become more than most people could bear. And because of that, God has made a way of escape for us. And for that, I think each of us should be eternally grateful to God. So today, let's talk about the types of family stressors. Uh, and what you will notice in today's lesson, in today's devotional, is that we have uh, a new addition to this list. And the new addition is the COVID 19. Uh, According to the American Psychological Association, uh, in a 2009 Stress in America report, the following stressors are paramount in most U.S. families: finances, 71%; stress at work, 69%; the economy, 63%. Uh, and more than 50% of the adults stated that adult relationships with adult responsibilities were stressful at a whopping 55%. Add to that military deployment and aging parents. Now, 11 years ago, 2009, what is missing from that list? Well, everybody can see that there is no COVID 19 on that list. Now, this 2009 stress report, finances, there's still financial problems. So, finances did not go away as a 71% concern in most families because COVID 19 showed up. Stress at work in 2009 was 69%. But stress at work, simply because the COVID 19 pandemic showed up, uh, workplace stress did not go down. When we talk about the state of the economy, that was a concern. 63% of people said they were concerned about the state of the economy in 2009. But because we're dealing with a global pandemic, the economy did not have mercy on anybody. So you've got to compound the finances, the stress at work, the economy. Now you've got to factor in the impact that an additional stressor called COVID 19 is having on those elements as well. Item 4, more than 50% of adults state that adult relationships, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, uh, peer relationships, uh, with adult responsibility, uh, is stressful. This was in 2009 before the COVID 19, and it was at a whopping 55%. Uh, 50% of adults, or more than 50% of adults, stated that relationships, uh, under the best of circumstances, was stressful. Uh, you know, uh, somebody rings the doorbell of a single female. Uh, she don't want to just answer the door. She want to make sure she looks presentable. A guy is going to the store or going out on a date. Uh, he wants to make sure uh, he's single, and he wants to make sure that he always presents himself with the best presentation possible. Uh, Being in the workplace to impress people, not in an arrogant way, but to show you've got your act together. Uh, but now you've got to compound that with the COVID 19, military deployments, moving from base to base. Uh, People could move with the stress of leaving family and friends behind. But now, with military deployments, there's a concern about how safe is where I'm going. What are they doing at the next station of call to make sure that the COVID 19 virus is not going to destroy me? Uh, when you talk about aging parents, even in the United Kingdom, on yesterday, uh, they've begun to give the COVID 19 vaccine to aging individuals, older individuals. Uh, but imagine in 2009, that was a whopping 55% concern. But now you've got to compound it with the COVID 19 and aging parents. Uh, will my will my father, will my grandmother, will my grandfather, uh, will they contract the COVID 19 virus because their autoimmune system is lower? Will they die from this? Uh, are they going to require hospitalization? And I can't go to the hospital to see them? Uh, See, in 2009, that wasn't a concern. But now we've got to add that to the list of our family stressors. And that becomes a very critical point. Also, life itself seems to be stressful. Now, this was 2009, 2010. According to Dr. Catherine Nordell, the executive director of the American Psychological Association's Professional Practice Division, over 75% of all Americans operate somewhere on an average day between moderate and high stress on almost any given day of the week. That's just how Americans are. Uh, when you talk about type A personality people, uh, they are just running 1,000 miles a minute. They can't slow down. If you work with type A people, if you're married to a type A person, if you're dating a type A person, if you are a type A person, uh, it's almost as if stress is just a part of their lives. And honestly, sometimes just in their constant high energy, always on hyper alert, it will almost create some anxiety in people around them to where they can't really relax. So when you look at over 75% of all Americans operate somewhere between moderate and high stress almost any given day of the week. This came out before COVID 19 came on the scene. So imagine now what the COVID 19 has done to elevate the stressfulness in the lives of people. Uh, Now, we're in the holiday season right now. Thanksgiving just ended a few weeks ago, and now we're approaching Christmas. Add to this holidays, other special occasions that bring additional financial and emotional stress that causes both physical and mental health issues. Uh, Christmas has historically been a time of family relaxation filled with stress. You say, well, you just contradicted yourself. Well, family relaxation is we're sitting around laughing, enjoying opening gifts, enjoying the fellowship, breaking bread together. But many times people will overspend. People will use their credit cards and they'll buy expensive gifts for children. They'll buy gifts for adults to adults that truthfully the adults could care less about. Uh, Go to Christmas parties, Christmas gatherings, and we just overdo it. That was before COVID 19. And now with COVID 19, it's really interfering with the style of holidays with a lot of people. Now, one of the ironies of this is online shopping is through the roof. Black Friday turned into a, a, a week, 2 weeks, and it is still growing because what a lot of people are doing to emotionally compensate for the restricted travel, for the restricted going into the shopping centers, because they can't go to Christmas parties, the social gatherings are minimized. You know what a lot of people are doing to compensate for that? Shopping. That's a form of self-medication. And you know what some people are doing? They're overdosing. They're absolutely overdosing. I was listening to a local TV show, TV news anchor person, and she mentioned that one of the, I think it was Amazon, had sent her an email congratulating her because this year alone, she had a whopping 600 orders on Amazon. Now, move that into Christmas. At some point, you've got to pay the Amazon bill. You've got to either use your own credit card, you've got to write a check, you've got to do something to pay for that. So it's easy to, with the stroke of a key, to spend a ton of money to feel good inside. But imagine the emotional stress that is going to cause when you've got to pay the piper. It's going to cause physical anxieties. One of the things that I'm cautioning churches not to get caught up in, because I promise you, in January, churches around the country are going to get flooded with phone calls. Do you help pay rent? Do you help pay utility bills? Uh, And you know what many times has happened? People have taken their house payment money, people have taken their rent money, people have taken their utility bill money, and they've gone Amazoning with it. And then the emotional stress. Remember, I said there were smiles initially? But then once the deed is done, the emotional stress, the physical anxiety that it's going to cause in the body, the headaches, the insomnia, and the mental health issues, it's going to catch up with us. And we've got to factor in this year, we're dealing with the COVID 19, where people feel, well, I've got to do so, I'm entitled to this. Well, you may be entitled to it, but the question is, can you afford it? Are we going to allow this COVID 19 pandemic, an added stressor, to create more internal stress in who we are? And I reluctantly say the answer to that is going to be yes. Let's look at how this thing, the COVID 19, is going to impact children. Now, the slide that I'm showing you has nothing to do with COVID 19. This is a presentation that I put together before COVID 19 came on the scene. But 30% of children surveyed stated they worry about the financial stability of their parents, while only 18% of these children's parents said they thought the children stressed over family finances. Well, translated another way, the parents who were shopping and spending and who were running into financial difficulty, only 18% of the parents thought the children were aware of it. But 30% of the children, almost 50% more than what the parents projected, 30% of the children said, we know what time it is. We know what day it is. We know that our parents are in over their head. We know that there's something going on with the house note. We know there's something going on with the utilities. We know that we're behind in the bills. We know. And we're concerned about that as children. But only 18% of the parents thought the children were aware of what was going on. Now, factor in the COVID 19 and the self medicating shopping, the financial stressors that parents are under. Children are aware. Children are very, 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 very intuitive about things. Children are struggling under normal conditions with fitting into groups. And now with the COVID 19, that's compounded even more because they do not have the socialization with their normal peer groups. And that's why, even in the midst of this COVID 19 pandemic, there is a great concern about the social impact that this COVID 19 is going to have on children. So, when we talk about the social development of children, we've got to figure in this pandemic is impacting it. Even at Bible school, I'm doing this broadcast today from my office at the church building, but I walk the corridors of the second floor where our classrooms are located. There haven't been children in those classrooms for the church since the first Sunday in March. I want you to get that. So the children have not been in close proximity of their friends, even in a Bible study setting. I realize we have the online classes for children, but it is no substitute, none, for our children not having access to the running, the laughter, the having fun with their peers. And this is definitely adding stress to all of our children. In terms of just the appearance of the children, uh, they don't have to get dressed in a special way because they're not going anywhere. They're not having to get dressed to go out to eat. They're not having to be concerned about dressing to go out to play dates with their friends. They're not worried about their appearance and going for sleepovers or cookouts. Uh, uh, Christmas plays. I was downstairs a few minutes ago. The daycare is still operating, but the children aren't even having a Christmas play this year. The first time in 8 years. But the children aren't having a Christmas play. That was the way the children and their parents would come together, and the children, the decorations, the skits, the songs. It was just a great way to end the year with a just a super orchestrated Christmas presentation. Not in 2020. And children sense that our schedule and our routine has been abruptly changed. And the change element has been the COVID-19. When we become sensitive to what stress and what a stressor can add to already pre existing insecurities, then it calls upon us to be more patient with each other. God is going to call Moses in Exodus chapter 4 to go back over into Egypt and deliver the Israelites from Egyptian bondage. But Moses, remember, Moses is raised in the Egyptian households. And Moses has had a pretty rough go of it all his life. And now at 80 years old, God is calling on Moses again. And listen to Moses' conversation with God. Oh, my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither now or since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of slow tongue. Moses just said, God, this is already my status. Has nothing to do with going back to Egypt. This is where I am right now. My mother put me in a basket as a baby. My sister drove me out of the river. I was raised in another man's household, seeing my mother and my sister, but I couldn't openly talk about my family relationship. I went out one day and I saw an Egyptian mistreating a Hebrew and I killed the Egyptian. I went out the next day and I saw a Hebrew mistreating a Hebrew and I tried to correct the matter and I had to flee for my life. He said, so I've got a speech impediment already. But remember now, God is calling on Moses in Exodus 4 to go back into a crisis that he think he's left. He want him to go back into Egypt. And Moses is saying, Lord, are you kidding me? I already have insecurities and I'm already stressed out. And the Lord said to him, who made your mouth? Or who makes you able to talk, or not, or deaf, you can't hear, or of seeing? Who orchestrates all of this? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach thee what thou shalt say. Here's what God has said. He's consoling Moses. He's not chastising him. He's saying, even in the midst of a crisis, another stressor. And Moses, I know this is a stressor for you to go back to Egypt. He says, but just like I've always been with you in stressful situations where your insecurity showed up, I know this is elevating it, but I'm still God all by myself. And I'm still going to be with you. I am the Lord. Now, therefore, go. Do you see that? Just go. I'm going to be with you. The COVID-19 has paralyzed us for almost 9 months. And you know what God is telling us? Just go. I'm going to see you through it. And I'm just so thankful to God. And we'll talk about this in Bible class tonight. I'm just so thankful that God has heard our moans, and God has heard our earnest prayers, and God has sent us a deliverer. No, it's not a man, but God has worked through men and women, and God has given them the gift of science and discovery, and they have put together a vaccine overseen by God to help get rid of this pandemic. And now it's up to individuals to move away from the excuses and say, if this is God's way of getting us out of this, then we're going to stop trying to find a reason not to embrace the remedy that God has given us. Because if people say, look to your neighbor to your left, look to your neighbor to your right. Well, look to your left, look to your right. Do you see anything else in the form of a deliverer? See, God told Moses, Moses, you're it. You may not like it, but you're it. You're the only deliverer they've got. And I'm going to make sure that you have all of the resources you need to go back into Egypt and face Pharaoh, and you will bring my people out. I want to encourage you to just keep hope, because God has heard your cry. In the midst of all of the stress that our bodies have absorbed, our emotions have dealt with, the stressor, the pandemic, the COVID-19 virus, the stressor is headed out the door. And I hope that each of us can be encouraged and not find excuse after excuse after excuse like Moses attempts to explain away the deliverance that God has given us in this time. Join me in Bible class tonight at 7:30, and we'll have just an open dialogue about how sometimes we try to interfere with the blessings that God has made possible. And oftentimes, in the process of doing that, we end up on the short end of the blessing. Let me invite you to pray with me at this time. Father, you've been so good to us. You've heard our cries and you have made it possible to show us that deliverance is indeed on the horizon. Help us, Father, not to add to our stress, but to embrace you and to embrace the gifts that you grant us, that the thing that has caused the stress will be eradicated. Father, help us to celebrate your answering of our prayers and help us, Father, to walk in that answer and help us, Father, to encourage others to embrace the answer of our deliverance. Keep us safe. Watch over our doctors, our nurses, all of those who are putting themselves in harm's way every day, ministering to us. We love you so much. Through Jesus, I pray. Amen. I look forward to seeing you in class tonight. God bless you. And again, be safe. God bless.